surprised that John Husted has not come out and supported this bill?
No,
Why not? I mean, it was just called the cornerstone of election reform. Shouldn't he be on board?
well, that's up to him. I mean, I certainly, I never asked him to come out in favor of it, and I don't, did you ask him?
No.
No, I don't, I understand that we once had Ted Brown, but I mean, I don't think that this is a situation in which there would be a rush over to an administrative officer in order to get commentary on it. I just don't see
You don't
it.
think the chief elections officer in the state should have a say
Oh,
or
sure.
opinion on this?
Absolutely, whatever he wants to do is fine. I mean,
You don't look to him for guidance, you look to the Indiana and Georgia people for guidance.
we look at people who had experience.
Speaking of the Georgia people, we were aware of these numbers before we got started. And the question, of course, was coming up, what about the other states that have this? And we knew very, very well that the African-American vote in Georgia has increased dramatically. 5 times the amount of the white vote in Georgia before we introduced this bill.
And let me say, had there been a contrary result, we might have taken a different position on the bill. In other words, had this dissuaded black voters from participating, we might have taken a totally different look at it. It hasn't, it doesn't. In fact, apparently, if you do cause and effect, you would have to say that it's been helpful.
What are the differences between 159 and Georgia's bill?
None of substance. None of
What
substance.
are the insubstantial differences?
You know, I can't think of any insubstantial differences either.
College ID issue, right?
The college ID, maybe Georgia elected to not allow their independent college folks the same opportunity. But that isn't the issue that's been raised with respect to the disenfranchisement issue there, so.
Do you know if Indiana accepts student IDs?
They may, I believe, yeah.
One of the provisions of the Georgia, and I think the Indiana laws, is that it allows you, if you don't have a photo ID at the polls, you can cast a provisional ballot and come back with a photo ID later and still get the vote counted. Do you know, does this bill do the same?
Same thing. Same thing, absolutely the same thing. That's, that little discussion with Representative Sykes was about that type of thing. You can go back and get it. You can fill out your provisional ballot, and then you go get it 10 days later, within 10 days to get it. Yeah.
As long as you bring back the photo ID.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me jump in here and just say this, when you dilute votes, it's the same as disenfranchising people, and we're looking at it in that way, in our caucus. Bob and I just watched a court down in Cincinnati order the counting of some 800 ballots that was clearly against state law, that's probably gonna decide an election.
Yeah, it
So
will.
the Democrats are looking at that one way, and we're looking at it the other. Any people that shouldn't be voting, that are voting, dilute the votes of legitimate voters, which is just as important as disenfranchisement. If I could go off the subject here, I've been here for a long time, half in the minority, half in the majority. What the Democrats did in committee and did on the floor today was abdicate their responsibility. And here's why. There were some issues that were brought up. For example, poll tax, payment of something for this ID card. That's why I asked one lady, do you have an amendment? You have an amendment. What they're doing is raising these issues, not trying to help the bill. We don't have all the answers. I might agree with them on that issue. I might accept that amendment to have free ID cards. If it's gonna cause a constitutional problem, let's do it. They didn't have any amendment. In committee or on the floor. They're not about making better legislation. They're about doing gotcha stuff. That's what you saw in committee and on the floor today.
Is that why Democrats didn't offer the expired license amendment that Representative Hoffman had to offer?
You have to ask them, but that's my guess.
It sounded like you were basically inviting it, Representative Hoffman.
Oh, to be clear, it was prepared on, all of you were in committee yesterday, it was prepared and distributed during the committee meeting. It was not offered. And in discussion with the chair and the sponsors of the legislation, some other members of the committee, we said, it's this isn't a bad idea. And we had planned, at some point in the committee to poll the members and encourage them to vote for this on our side. It wasn't offered. So this morning, I instructed the staff, look, and Bob talked to Representative Stinciano and said, I'm not gonna offer the amendment. I instructed it, let's have it drafted two ways, one with my name, one with a blank name on it, because I don't wanna step over Representative Stinciano. It was his amendment. And I spoke to him beforehand. And I'm not gonna disclose the conversation, because I told him I wouldn't do that. But in short, he told me that I should go ahead and offer the amendment. And as you can see, it was something that we all agreed with. And I think there was one negative vote on the other side. And that's how it's supposed to work. Certainly, there are a lot of smart folks on the D side of the aisle, and they're gonna come up with ideas to improve legislation. And if they would do it, like carry conceal, like other amendments that may improve it, they should do it rather than sit back and throw fireballs and hope it works for them.
Thank you. Thank you very much.